Hey, what's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of the Persistent Entrepreneur Podcast. Today we're with Corey Morris. Corey, what's going on, brother?
Just enjoying some nice weather and powering through summer.
Beautiful. Tell me where you are. By the way, where are you located
Yeah,
with nice
I'm in
weather?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, Kansas City. Okay, man. Oceanfront property out there, right? Lots of it.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
we it's funny because the weather has been like absolutely the best weather we've had all year, probably for the last week or so. I don't want to jinx myself though, because we're leaving at the end of this week for vacation for a week. So, but
Yeah,
it's
I
been
already saw the
amazing, man.
forecast going back up to the upper 90s this week, so I'm not worried about jinxing it anymore here.
All right,
Just ready
good.
to enjoy one more day of it.
All right, excellent. Well, I appreciate you being here. We're going to have a conversation about marketing today, about digital marketing, about AI, the disruption in the space. And I'm excited. I'm excited for this conversation. Just to give our listeners a little bit about you, you're an author, founder of Digital Marketing Success Plan, the president CEO of Voltage Digital Agency. Spent 20 years in strategic and leadership roles focused on growing national and local client brands with award-winning ROI generation digital strategies. I love that you mentioned ROI. Like that, I swear to you, when I've dealt with so many digital agencies, yeah, and not agencies, but people selling their digital, like we're going to run Facebook ads for you. We're going to create content. And then, so, okay, great. What's the ROI? Well, the ROI is you just got to spend more money. Like the ROI is spend more money. And so it drives me nuts. Anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent, but you are a contributor to Search Engine Land in Forbes, among other publications. And you are you speak throughout United North America on SEO, digital marketing topics, included at SMX in digital summit events. What's SMX?
It's short for Search Marketing Expo. It's affiliated with Search Engine Land, one of the top search engine publications.
Okay, cool. So SMX and ROI, those are a couple words I like. I like ROI. When I'm spending money on something, Corey, I want an ROI. I feel like you're in one of those spaces where people just I don't know. Is there a way someone could say, hey, you invest this much, you get this much back, or like what's different about what you're doing than the majority?
Yeah. I mean, it's at the heart of what we do. I learned a lesson a long time ago. So anything I talk about that sounds like I have it figured out, or it's like, oh, that sounds amazing, and you're putting somebody else down. I'm not putting anybody else down. I'm just I'm speaking from very real and personal experience of where I've made the mistakes. But it's to your point a minute ago. So many digital marketers will say, okay, it's optimization, we got to test and learn, let's go figure it out, let's go turn on Google ads, or let's go create a bunch of content for SEO and or spend it in Meta or somewhere else, and learn the hard way 6 months in that you put a bunch of media dollars out there, you've invested a bunch in creating content or ads or creative, you've maybe spent a bunch with an agency or in-house staff that you hired, and then you start adding up the dollars, and to your point, it's like, well, we didn't spend enough. Well, could we have known that ahead of time? Could somebody have told me that? Or if we can't figure it out, we don't have the analytics or the attribution model set up, or the systems, or people aren't marking things properly on the sales team and CRM. It's like, well, time out, we probably should have figured all that out up front, and or use all the tools at our disposal to do the research, and taking 5 minutes to go figure it out before we spend 6 months and six figures of media that didn't do anything for us.
I mean, is there though a way to figure it out? Because I feel like I get a similar message as like, hey, we gotta kind of test, see what works, run this, and yeah, you are into it for 5 or even 6 figures before you finally start getting results in a lot of cases. So is that
Yeah.
just part of the process?
Yeah, in many cases, there is a ramp up time and a period before you get to break even and you get into profitable territory. and there is risk in it, like investing in, in financial markets and things too. But if I were to make that equation, I think we shouldn't skip past a prospectus or advice that you get from a financial advisor before you just go dump a bunch of money in a meme stock or something. Same thing with marketing is, yes, there's risk. Nothing will necessarily, it won't play out the way that you predict exactly, because there's so many other variables and things that are changing in real time. But at the same time, there are ways to work through a process, whether it's with the process I unpack or somebody else's process, to take a moment or take a few weeks and go through and make sure we're aligned on being able to measure all the way to a business outcome and not a bunch of vanity marketing KPIs and metrics, to make sure that we can get data that goes all the way through our systems to come back to us. So we're not just throwing it out there and seeing what happens. And I'm not talking about creating a plan that we just blindly run the plan and hope it works. There's agility built into that, but it's got to be the right balance of the testing and optimization in a planned approach.
Yeah. You've been doing this for 20 years, and I get so many requests of people to be on my podcast, and then I'm not exaggerating Corey, when I tell you, 40% of them are digital marketing agencies. And so it's such, I hate to say, like, you're familiar with the term Red Sea. Like, it
Yeah.
is really become a Red Sea. And we're going to get into AI in a minute, because that's the next level,
Yeah.
right? But now with AI, everybody's an expert. But what makes you different? Like, what makes you stand out, Corey, over all the others?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question, because I it doesn't seem like rocket science to me that we have to see ROI. I mean, yes, I could go say yes to a lot of different people who are like, and I've got a couple of these stories in my book where it's like, hey, I want to do Google ads. And I get excited and I say, great, we do Google ads. We're a Google partner. And I know that'll probably be in your marketing mix, but time out. Again, we can get 6 months into this. And if we just rushed into it, I'm going to get fired. Or even if all the metrics look, and graphs look up and to the right, if we didn't connect it to a business outcome where we can show your CEO ROI and not just marketing KPIs, I'm going to get fired anyway. And so when I think about my business and matching it up with a client's business in a partnership to get there, if we don't ask the hard questions early on, this is not going to be a long-term relationship, and it's going to cost both sides. And so it starts at a business decision for me to not take on something that seems like easy money to then get fired and have to turn it over and go find more clients. If we can go take this to new levels and new heights and know for sure that it's working, it's great. But that's hard work. There's attribution is really hard to get to. One, it's the changing landscape and evolution of things in the digital marketing world, where it's hard to track return visits, and if you've got a long sales cycle, to be able to capture all that information to get the ROI data on the marketing side of the tech stack and the analytics stack. And it can be equally hard, if not harder, on the business side, where if the systems in place like a CRM or ERP or e-commerce system or whatever are not set up to go capture all that information from the beginning. So there's groundwork to be done. And in many cases, there's pressure to, like, okay, we made a decision that we need to start doing digital marketing today. Sometimes it's not well received, where I'm like, hold on, you're not ready to do digital marketing today. You need to address this brand thing, this product development thing, this analytics or measurement thing. And that might take a week, might take a few months, but we'll be all thanking ourselves for doing that later. Again, going into some of those stories of where brands haven't done that on the other side and felt burnt, or felt like the channels didn't work for them when it wasn't necessarily the channel, and not like it's not me, it's you, or vice versa type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I like the hard question. I mean, I teach sales. I mean, I have a couple courses, and I teach people a 5-step sales process. And I just made a mistake myself, because my wife and I, we own a real estate brokerage, and met with some clients, had have a big piece of land, and I told them what the land was worth, but they said, no, we want to put it on for an extra 200,000. And I did it. And now here we are, a couple months later, and it's not selling, and my fault, everything's my fault. And I want to say, no, it's not my fault. I told you from the beginning what it was worth, but they didn't want to listen. And now we put it on, they're not getting close to, and so even though it's frustrating to me, I have to take full responsibility. I should have asked more questions. I should have asked deeper questions. Maybe I should have just walked away, right? To your point, sometimes, just better off just walking away in the beginning, because if you don't have a motivated customer, and you don't have a reasonable customer, then you're just wasting your time and their time.
Yeah, walking away. That's one of the. If you would ask me, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in the last 2 or 3 years is how to sell myself out of a deal, as easily or quickly as I want to sell myself into one. And yeah, understanding that all the metrics that come with a bad deal and the money lost or the time lost, the
Mm,
effort, the opportunity cost of that. At the same time, the friction that can come in that, especially for the rest of my team, having
yes.
one and then feeling like we need to over deliver to try to make up for whatever gaps there. All those factors go into that. But at the same time, I've learned the positive kind of net effect of being a good partner. If I recognize in the first 5 or 10 minutes of a conversation with someone that, hey, I love where they're going and I would love to be part of the story, but I'm not at the right phase of where they are in their growth plan, like where I am and the level of expertise and specialization I have, they might need some different channels and things that we don't do, or they need it at an earlier stage. Partner. They need a 3-person agency who can give them 12 things versus paying 3 times as much for me to give them 1 or 2 things. And so that's where having a stable of kind of strategic partners and just trusted resources to hand them off to helps. And so not only the benefits of not getting the bad situation, the lost money from taking on the wrong opportunity,
Yeah.
but some of the strategic aspects of that. I had a prospect who I pointed to a better, more right fit partner for them, and they've referred. I've never worked with them. We just had that one initial conversation, and they've referred 3 other clients to me. And it's just amazing how just doing the right thing and being honest with people comes back around too. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah. Well, it's not even that. I mean, well, it is that. And it's understanding that, like, because I was honest with these guys, I just didn't ask hard enough questions, as you brought up earlier. So I just, oh yeah, don't worry, if it doesn't sell for our price, we'll just gonna reduce it. Well, here we are, and that's not happening. And like you said, it's friction, it's money wasted, it's time wasted, it doesn't help to our, signs are coming up and down. I mean, we have a lot of real estate agents that listen to this podcast. Do you do any work with real estate agents?
We have, yeah. And more on the brokerage side than the individual or independent
Yeah,
agent
yeah,
side of
me
things.
too.
But yeah, and I understand that the challenge, right, of it's and the time periods of having to pull it down and put it back up and reset the database and everything else. And yeah, and it's not, like most financial things in life too, for their end customer, this is a big lifetime chapter and move, and there's stress on it, especially with any contingencies and everything else. And so
It's such an
um
emotional thing, right? Real
yeah,
estate
yeah. So
trading
you're
is
not just
such an emotional
managing the
business.
transaction and getting the
Yeah.
logistics done, but you're managing all the other aspects of it. And that's the case in so many different relationships in business or with consumers in life in general. And not taking that into consideration can get things off the rails pretty quickly too, and
Yeah,
managing
I mean,
expectations.
I like to pride myself. Like, I don't take as many listings on anymore. It's one of still own the brokerage, but I have other agents, and so when people come to me, I get my listing sold, right? Like, and here's a situation where it just everything went wrong, but now when I look back at it and I say, you know what, at that table right there, I should have just said, "Hey, listen, like you said, I unfortunately I can't like what you said. I love what you said. It was nicer than what I like. I love where you're going with this property, but maybe I'm just not the person to get you there." And if you want to try do it my way to start, I'm happy to help you. But obviously, they didn't want to do that, and we are where we are now. All right, let me get back to marketing though. So Google partner, you mentioned that earlier. What's special about being a Google partner, if anything?
Yeah. So on the paid search and Google Ads side of things, there's a partner program for agencies, and we're part of that by adhering to following Google's best practices for advertising, being certified, maintaining and managing a minimum amount of spend across our client base. Um, and Yeah, it's not a super difficult program to get into, but it's one that we take seriously and make sure that we're most things within it align with where we want to be for our clients. The one thing that I argue though with Google on, and I haven't been kicked out yet, and even though I say this publicly on shows like yours, is that one of the
Don't let
metrics
them hear it. Go
yeah, one of the metrics
ahead.
for us to be in the program is they want us to be consistently growing our clients' ad spends. So yes, I want to bring on new clients, and we are. That's one of the pillars. Two, we want to follow their advertising standards and not get banned or any clients banned. Yes, but in many cases, to what we were talking about with ROI earlier, if we hit the law of diminishing returns, we should spend less. And
That's
so in
right.
many cases, I'm trying to reduce ad spend and get it to be more profitable rather than consistently getting my clients to pay more. And a lot of agencies and media companies still charge based on a commission of ad spend, which is an old school or traditional way of billing for media management. We don't
Mm,
do that. We have a flat rate for our side of things, and the media is a pass through. So my I'm not incentivized to get clients or brands to spend more for me to make more or to hold on to a spend that's not performing because my fees are attached to it. So that's one area where I don't necessarily agree with some of the pillars of Google's program, but we've been in it for over a decade, and Google Ads is a big part of what we do, especially with other aspects of Google being disrupted at high rates.
so, and I want to get into the AI in a second. But to that point, with spending more, wouldn't it make sense though that if you're getting great results, you're going to spend more anyway?
Yeah, yeah.
That-
So what you want it to do is you want to understand your numbers really well, and we talked about ROI. So if you know that you're getting the return on investment that you want and need, and can scale it higher, that's great. So I would really think about like anything in business. You want it to
Mm,
scale. You don't
scale
want to
part.
you just increase a top line if it's not flowing down to the bottom line. And so one of the key metrics, and one of the metrics that a lot of advertisers go by is return on ad spend. But that metric is a great one, but it's flawed in the sense that it can't, and none of those metrics can understand the full investment you're making. If you're paying an agency or paying a consultant or paying someone who's sitting in house all day long, or you're taking 2 hours of your day every day, and the opportunity cost of what other deals you could be making or doing for that time, what all those soft costs and other hard costs aren't factored into just those media dollars. So you've got to do some math or have a dashboard set up in a way that you can factor in the all-in cost beyond just what you're spending to Facebook, Google, or whatnot as well.
Got it. Um, let's talk about the AI. First off, tell on a broad macro level, what is AI doing to digital marketing agencies?
Yeah, it's naturally Google has been making a billion changes to Google Ads and their ad network where they make the most money for themselves. And so they've launched different features into how you target ads and ad types and whatnot. But on the organic side, or for search engine optimization, that's where the biggest disruption has happened, because what used to be a long time ago, the 10 blue links that you'd see and probably a map pack at the top, if you did a local search, have been just pushed down and decimated by the fact that Google is directly answering questions at the top in what they call an AI overview. In addition to that,
Mm.
for a really long time, the focus for search engine optimization has been on primarily Google because they had a 90% share of all the searches that were happening in the U.S. and similar trends in other countries too, aside from Russia and China, which have their own bigger search engines there. But in North America, it's heavily Google. Well, what's also changing is people are finding answers in different places. So not only is Google different in how it's got AI built into its search results, now the chat GPTs of the world and other places are becoming sources of how people ask questions and get answers and find information. And user behavior is starting to change too, where we're now, for those of us who are using an LLM or chat function or some type of AI on a daily basis, it's more conversational and there's more real-time feedback and working back and forth and getting more custom answers than to just go put in the same sentence or the same phrase and try to get a search result. So it's definitely changing how people find information, and it's forcing us. For me, I see it as a positive to diversify away from Google more and to go into the new frontier of where things are going. But it's stressful because there's still things that work today, and we have to stay focused on them while also understanding what works tomorrow and not getting left behind and making sure we're testing it and going there too.
Mm. Yeah, to that point, I had to renew one of my LLCs earlier today. So what I did was I went to Google. I'm sorry, I didn't go to Google. I went to ChatGPT and I said, "Hey, give me the website to renew my LLC in Massachusetts and the instructions." And it just bang gave me the site, gave me exact instructions. Go here, log in, blah 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 blah, and it was done. I wonder how many people are doing that now, as opposed to going to Google. Or you think still most people still go to Google?
The numbers are shrinking in Google, but it's not just because of that one factor. It's because Google's changed how they're showing the results too, and they've got their own. They're trying to answer the questions directly there too. So we're seeing less traffic come through from Google, but I have and many clients who are seeing the same results overall because we're focused on quality and not quantity. So we're stripping away some of the kind of the vanity. If you were measuring page views and site visits as your top metric, you're probably frustrated or sad right now because that number is dwindling and you're getting less click throughs from Google directly. But if you've been focused on quality or you shifted your focus to quality of the engagement and conversions and people filling out a form or making a phone call, and if you're landing the quality traffic, you're probably okay for now. But there's so many examples of how people look doing things differently. You're not just going and putting in a search term, getting the result, going to the page and checking out. You're probably talking with it, going back and forth, and for you it worked really well because it got you right there really quick. We had someone fill out our website form a few months ago, and we saw in the analytics that they came to our site 7 different times from ChatGPT. So they're really going back, and this person was going back and forth and really querying and talking to ChatGPT, looking for the best search engine optimization partner before they actually filled out our form a few days later. And so there's
Mm.
a lot of that. I've done it to try to find different software and analysis. And then the deeper you get into it, sometimes you'll find while it's great in many cases, it's still hallucinating some too and telling you
Yes.
things that aren't true.
I was just gonna say that. It's so all the time, man. It's wild. It just wants to make you happy, I think, for the
Yeah.
most part, right? It's like it wants to give you information. Oh yeah, I'll do that, and it doesn't do it. No, no. Like even like you used to be able to just go in and set up a task. I can't find that feature anymore in my GPT now. It's a lot more complicated. You have to set up an agent and then connect APIs and all this other stuff. So anyway, I got somebody that's working on that stuff for me. But let's go back to what you talked about, and we'll use Google as the example. Up on the top now, you said it because you're right. I noticed that recently that there's almost set up more like a chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
Like when you first go in, it's asking you, "Hey, what do you need help with?" And So how do you get on, like, I guess, how are they offset? Like, if you think about the people that used to pay to be there, how do you get back to that top spot again?
Yeah. So ads are still there, right? And that's the exception. And Google will continue to carve out space for ads because that's where their revenue comes from. But in terms of the organic results or the free results that you optimize and write good content to get found, those are pushed so far down the page. So
Yeah.
there's a lower you're getting a lower percentage of that traffic. You want to be there, but you can also get referenced up there. But the number of people who will go click into that, what's called an AI overview that Google puts at the top, as Google's AI is trying to answer the question for you. It will show you what its sources and what it's quoting, and you can actually go over to the right and kind of click through to them. But that traffic is lower, but there's still incentive to be there, and again, on the right terms, and not having just a blanket strategy where you want to rank for your car dealership and you want to rank for the word cars. It's probably not going to get you what you want, even if you got there. You want to be honed into the right level of terms and answers that you want to be providing to your target audience, and not waste your time on things that don't matter as much.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, goofing around with my Google here, and so basically, I guess the question really is how, and I'm guessing what's going to happen next is there'll be whoever wants to pay the most money is going to be the one that gets referred through the Google AI, right? You think it's going to come to that at some point?
They have talked about showing ads in the AI results, and that's
Mm,
where we start crossing lines that get a little tricky for me, because when it's clearly an ad before or after that AI answer section, I'm good with it because we can see it and we know what influences both to a degree. Now, you get an ad in the AI overview where I'm having a conversation in essence with Google's AI, and now there's an ad in here. Now you're getting into a gray area, at least in my opinion, of what's more organic and what should be there versus where somebody's spending money to get there.
yeah. All right. Let me ask a couple of questions that I know one of the questions you sent me here is how has AI changed SEO?
Yeah. The good news for anyone who's been doing SEO or partnering with someone doing their SEO, if it's been modernized over the last 3 or 4 years, an approach focused on experience and quality, and then the EEAT aspect of building expertise, authority, and trust in your content. So quality versus quantity. If you're working through that, um, a lot of that works well for getting ranked in the AI overviews that we just talked about,
Mm,
and in the LLMs or the chat GPTs of the world as well. So the good news is, if you've had a modern and evolving SEO strategy, it can serve you well in AI optimization as well. More traditional approaches, if you got outdated a little bit and we're still able to get by with a more outdated strategy or traditional strategy, focus more on keywords and content and links, that's being disrupted the most. And so I continue to see and kind of roll my eyes, being in this industry a long time, at people saying SEO is dead. Well, no, the old way, the very traditional way of SEO is dead, but the modern way, for those of us who have adapted over the last several years, is actually serving us well, and it's a great foundation for where SEO is today and where AI optimization is today and where it's going. So it's definitely disrupted. If you are working with an outdated partner, or you were doing this 10 years ago and you haven't evolved your approach, that's who's feeling it the most right now. And where a lot of those scary clickbait headlines, that's who they're
so
targeting when they
what
say it's
would
dead.
well, how would somebody know they're an updated partner? Like, what would that look like? What
Yeah,
would
unfortunately, if if you're feeling it already, with you just lost in the last year and a half, as AI has disrupted things, all of your conversions or web form submissions or phone calls or e-commerce sales, rapidly. Other signs of it are the fact of someone's reporting on, okay, well, keyword ranking positions, traffic, and metrics that don't get closer to a business metric, or metrics that are dropping off and there's no answer to why. That's troubling, and those are yellow or red flags for me in anyone's approach. If my team said that without an answer, or anybody else's, in terms of how they're measuring and quantifying and doing SEO.
All right. And then I know you have a process called the START planning process. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I fully unpack it in my book and give it away there. I don't hold anything back there, and I have some stories to make it come to life more. But it's a 5-step process. It's START as an acronym, and it's what I recommend going through for any company who's doing digital marketing or thinking about it, to not have one of those 5 or 6 figure spends that doesn't produce ROI, like we talked about at the beginning of the show. And so it starts with strategy naturally. The S is strategy, and that's making sure we're on the same page. Even people who've worked in the same business for a long time can be defining terms different ways, or looking at from their function in the organization, and not defining what success looks like, what that business outcome is, or getting to a quantifiable ROI measurement and goal. And so getting your strategy outline of who you want to reach, how you want to reach them, what the numbers need to look like for this to be a worthwhile experience, let alone a profitable one, are important, because then you use that lens to look through for the rest of the process, and it flows from there. So the second is tactics. Often I see tactics in place of a strategy, or they feel like a strategy. We're doing this whole checklist of best practices, or we're creating 5 blog posts a month. We're posting on social daily, without questioning why or what or how or who you're trying to reach. Just doing it because someone said we should, or that's a best practice, or we've always done that. So, or somebody said that we should at a conference we went to. Those are dangerous, because now you're relying on tactics as a strategy. So having the strategy in place, understanding who you need to reach, how often, where they are, that allows you to quantify that in research tools, and to be able to go out and say, okay, we know we need X number of people to come and to become our client. Where can we go find them? And that's what you do in the tactics phase. You go look at how many people are even searching on Google, how many people are in that target audience who might be right fit, or on Meta or LinkedIn or wherever. And does that work? And where should we be? And then from there, again, it starts going faster, because the A is for application. And this is where we look at, how does this whole strategy come to life? We know what the strategy is. We know what tactics and channels and platforms we're going to be in. What kind of assets do we need? What kind of ad creative? What kind of content do we need? What does our website need to be updated, to help us support this strategy and these tactics? The R is for review. This is the layer where you make sure that your reporting house is in order. You can not just spin up dashboards and KPIs and for marketing, but connect it all the way through to business outcomes, like we talked about earlier. And then the T is for transformation. This is where this goes from being talking points and workshop to an actual plan, whether it's on paper or in a deck or in spreadsheets and digitally. This is where we can make it actionable. So when we get busy 2 months in, it doesn't go on the shelf, or it's not in someone's head and then they leave the organization and then there went the whole marketing plan with it. This is getting the resources aligned, having our checkpoints built in for progress measurement, and making sure that we're able to put the plan into action on day one.
I love it. Thanks for breaking that down. I like to, if you go back to the first 2, strategy and tactics, how you said a lot of people think of the tactics as a strategy. I think that's brilliant. That's a really a big takeaway, I think, for our listeners to get, that the tactics are not, the strategy is not the platform, the channels, but it's going before that, thinking about the who you're targeting, the why, the how, the problems, the challenges, right? All that stuff. I think is smart. All right, name of your book again for our listeners? How do they get a copy of it?
Yeah, it's called The Digital Marketing Success Plan. It's available on Amazon, but I've got also right under my name there, the URL to the website that'll unpack the whole process we talked through and give you a link over to Amazon. Since it's a long title, Digital Marketing Success Plan, I shortened it to thedmsp.com.
DMSP. How does so with going back to where I mentioned earlier with the Red Sea of, you go on Facebook, you go in mostly Facebook, you see so many agencies, and everybody's building everybody's an expert now at building AI agents, and it's just it's getting crazy out there. How does somebody decide who they're going to work with now? What would be your advice to all the people?
Yeah. Um, if they're not talking about, and I'll go back and we'll hammer on ROI one more time here. If they're not talking about how you make money and understanding that inside and out, um, that's a red flag. Someone who wants to rush into, hey, let's start Google Ads, let's start SEO, let's start whatever, rushing into an agreement without understanding your industry or talk about how you make money, and understanding how things get all the way from a marketing tactic to a business outcome. That's important. You need a marketing partner, whether it's someone you're hiring in-house to be on your team or a consultant or an agency or anyone else. If they are not curious and wanting to help you connect the dots and pushing you or challenging you on any of the gaps you might have, that's a dangerous place to be, because it's almost like if you don't get somebody's name early on when you meet them at a party, it almost feels like they can't ask when they get too many months in if they didn't ask the right questions early on.
Hmm, that's good. All right, so two questions left. So number one is, what's the biggest challenge right now for us as entrepreneurs and business owners when it comes to AI in our marketing?
Yeah, I think what we've learned a lot, or for anybody who's dug in, to a pretty decent level, is it's created a lot of different efficiencies for us. Learning how to use it as a tool to go create content or do things at scale, are opportunities that a lot of us have taken advantage of. But I think staying up with it and testing it and not just getting comfortable with what works today is important. You mentioned agents, and that's a challenge, for me as well. Okay, I've got to here with it, and it's made a lot of things I do more efficient in my day. But now I need to get to the next level because new iterations of ChatGPT are out, other AI platforms are emerging. I need to not just settle here and get passed by, or I need to figure out that next thing. My criteria is something I don't have time to do, don't want to do, or don't like doing. Then try to give it to AI, before going other places with it, and continuing to carve out time to go test. For some of us, we like that shiny object, that new tech toy or tool, and we'll go spend too much time on testing it. And we probably need to put some parameters around that and not take our focus off of what's working today and the opportunity cost there. For others, it's, you get to the end of your day, into your week, you had good intentions of testing or trying to do things in a new way, but you just ran out of time. And you need to schedule intentional time to be testing. So you may be on one end of that spectrum or the other, but you've got to be intentional with your time to get to that next level where it's going, and not just settle for what it can do for you today.
Any tool that you want to give our listeners that you would say, hey, here's something to test, play around with, try out?
I am still heavily in Chat GPT, because what I found is that it's hard with how much time I've invested in training it, giving it,
Mm,
all 24,000 words of my book
that's
and
right.
getting it trained over time. I've learned how sticky it is now, because it's hard to go reinvest that time in the next one. But at the same time, there are so many different, even just in the past 6 months, meeting tools and transcription tools and tools that will go do briefs and things like that for you. So um it's hard. I have to force myself, like I said a minute ago, in
Do,
testing, to go test the other platforms.
do you use
um,
Jasper? Ever use Jasper?
I've tested it a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like Jasper. I still I'm still back and forth. I still don't know if I had to give up one of them, I would certainly give up Jasper over ChatGPT all day. So,
Yeah.
but I think I just answered my own question on should I keep keep Jasper or not. That's funny. All right, and then the final question for you today. Corey, is what is the biggest opportunity now for our listeners going forward with AI in their digital marketing?
Yeah, the disruption we're seeing now. I have friends and colleagues who are like, I'm not going to sign up for the next version of where this is going. I've been through two or three big changes over the last 2 or 3 decades, and they're cashing out. There will be others who don't modernize and stay in a more traditional approach, and eventually, like we talked about, that traffic will die and they won't land the clients they need to, or and I don't want that to happen for anyone at all, to be left behind. There will naturally also be a lot of, and I'm already seeing it, people who try to rush into the digital marketing industry and try to exploit it or be a disruptor, and I welcome that. But what the opportunity is, the diversification. We're not all going to be playing Google's game and by Google's rules in the next decade. We're going to have a lot more sources. We're going to be able to go match up with and meet our prospects and right fit clients one-to-one. And having a great brand, a great story will be the tiebreaker in a lot of cases where AI may help you get matched up and help people find you. But everybody will kind of feel the same until that personal touch and engagement comes through as well.
All right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate your time today. Thank you. I think you brought a lot of value for our listeners. I'm looking forward to listening to it again. Anything that I should have asked that I didn't get to?
Not without me putting on a tinfoil hat or getting the crystal ball out or anything else. I won't be too much more speculative here, because by the time we get off the air here, it'll change anyway.
Things are going to change. Yeah, it's always changing, always evolving. All right, give us a final word, man. So someone just jumped in, they want to listen to the last 20 seconds of this podcast. Only thing they listen to. What are you telling them?
Yeah, if you don't know, and I say no, if you think and don't know that your digital marketing is working, and when I say working, driving return on investment, you should question it and question whether you have a set of tactics or whether you have a strategy, and if that strategy is deeply rooted enough in driving to business outcomes. Because tactics can be expensive and fleeting, especially nowadays, and you don't want to have to find that out more months and years down the road that it wasn't working for you.
All right, brilliant, man. Thank you for being on the Persistent Entrepreneur podcast. Appreciate